Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back. We hope you had a lovely time stretching your legs and having a comfort break. Could I kindly ask that we settle down so we move on with our program? If the person standing next to you is still standing, please do me a favor and nudge them down. We do have an extensive break soon after this conference so people can network, hey, Simba?
We do, yeah. We do have after the session, which ends at 6 o'clock today.
Awesome. So we now move on into the last leg. To be honest, I'm not so excited about this because we get to say goodbye to all these lovely faces.
Well, I'm excited because, look, mortality rates, data science, e-disky. I'm quite excited, so I'm looking forward to it.
Our next presentation is on Malawi Life Tables experience gained from construction based on industry input. Please help me with your most energetic enthusiastic applause for the presenter of this presentation, ladies and gentlemen, Paul NYIRENDA.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm so excited, coming from a background of being a professional accountant, to be amongst several actuaries. I must admit, it's my first time to meet several actuaries in a single day. Actually, back home, when you spot an actuary, you are very lucky because there are very few. I have been inspired by the presenter, the previous presenter, when he was talking of the opportunities that are there in as far as the actuarial profession is concerned. And I think this also gives room for Malawi to have more actuaries. I'll take you through development of mortality tables for the life insurance industry in Malawi. So I'll touch on the registrar's objectives, basically regulation of pension and insurance supervision in Malawi is done by the registrar of financial institutions. So I'll also give a background to the mortality tables project, and then the project scope, project activity timeline, and then I'll also highlight a few key findings following this mortality tables project, and then some of the challenges and learning points that we have seen. And then we'll also look at the second phase and the final, of course, phase of the project. The registrar of financial institutions, who happens to be the governor of the Reserve Bank of Malawi, is mandated under the Financial Services Act to regulate and supervise the financial services, which includes the insurance and pension industry. The Financial Services Act actually outlines 5 key objectives for the registrar, and that is safety and the soundness of the financial institutions, to ensure high standards of conduct of business by financial institutions, to promote fairness, efficiency, and orderliness of the financial sector, and also to promote financial stability of the financial system and the reduction and deterrence of financial crime in the financial institutions. Now, the Financial Services Act is the umbrella act, and below the Financial Services Act, there are several other acts like the Banking Act, and specifically for the purposes of this presentation, the Insurance Act gives the registrar the primary responsibility of promoting safety, soundness, and prudent management of companies with the aim of protecting insurance policyholders. So in view of this, the registrar thought of coming up with mortality tables. But as a way of background, historically, life insurance in Malawi were commonly using the SA 56 to 62 mortality tables, that's for South Africa, and the 1955 British mortality tables. However, you may agree with me, being actuaries, that demographics have changed over time. And in addition, risk profiles are different between countries. So because of this, the registrar, in conjunction with the the Life Insurance Association of Malawi embarked on the project to develop mortality tables. And this was co-sponsored, and the Zamara Actuaries and Administration consultancy company, they were engaged in February 2021 to develop the mortality tables for Malawi. However, there was a major setback, which was COVID, during the time they were being engaged, and therefore we had to make use of virtual platforms. Now, the registrar actually recognizes that mortality tables are a very key important element in as far as pricing of insurance products are concerned. And the initiative is based on one, the country-specific actual experience, and also lessons learned from participating in the MEFIM study in 2018. So MEFIM had also a study aimed at producing mortality tables for the region. So we also learned a few things from that study because we were involved. And also just to mention that Zimbabwe and Uganda have also developed their own mortality tables. Now with respect to project goals, there are three key goals. The first one is to ensure reliable and credible pricing of life insurance and annuity, also including funeral plans and health insurance covers. And it is also expected that the mortality tables will assist insurance company to adequately reserve for potential payments. And further to that, the mortality tables will also assist pension funds with pension liability management by scheme managers to base their estimation of average life insurers, average life. I'm sorry, I think the other part is cutting. Yeah, basically I think it will also help pension funds as well in liability management. In terms of project scope and the activities that we went through, the first one, we had to assess existing exposures and mortality data in the life insurance industry. So mortality experience was assessed from 1st January 2016 to 31st December 2020. So we had to look at a 5-year period. And the data was collected from 5 insurers. In Malawi, we have got 5 life insurers, but we have got 6 life insurers, but the 6th one had not operated for a long time. So we had to get data for only the 5 life insurers. And then development of the initial mortality table data set, it included 3 sets. The first one, we had to include the group risk, and then the other one is the individual life, and then the other set is for the annuities business. The development framework for the maintaining mortality tables in the future to be also continued later on after we have concluded this project. Now that's the that's the project timeline. Basically, we started in August, June and August 2021 with the data collection, and then thereafter there had to be data assessment and cleaning. After that, then the consultant came up with the draft mortality tables, which in May this year, there were consultations with the actuaries from basically with the statutory actuaries in Malawi. And then now we are at the stage of coming up with the final report, which is being worked on by the consultant after incorporating the comments that were provided by the statutory actuaries. And thereafter, there will be a review of the regulations on the usage of the local mortality tables. And then also we'll have guidance in terms of how we shall maintain the mortality tables. Some of the key findings for the annuities mortality table, it was observed that crude mortality rates graduated in reference to the South African annuity. That's we used the SAIFL 98 and SAIML 98 standard table. And the Blas logit method of transformation is the one that was used. I'm sure as actuaries you are more conversant with that one. While in accounting, it's different. We use IFRS 17. The other key finding is that Mero crude rates were generally low in comparison to the South African annuity. That's the SIFL 98 and SAIML 98 tables. And the 90 male tables and the 55 male tables for England and Wales. So ours, the rates were low when compared with South Africa and the UK. And that graph basically shows the comparison with the other standard mortality tables. That's from the age 40 to 100. So the green line, that's for Malawi, which shows that the mortality rates were on the lower side. And similarly, when you compare with the standard tables, that's for ages 40 to 70 with the other countries, that's the South African and the UK one, we also find that the Malawian rates are on the lower side. As for the individual ordinary product, the female mortality rates apparently were similar when you compare with the male ones. That's up to age 40. And then the female mortality were getting better after ages 40 to 60. But however, female mortality rates are worse than male mortality rates between ages 60 and 100. So this is a new finding in global mortality investigations due to limited data for females beyond age 45. And then the other important finding is that the study calculates crude mortality rates for Malawi assured lives, that's from 2016 to 2020, using various methods and the statistical techniques, including the Whittaker-Henderson graduation method, and the Thierry graduation method, and HP2 graduation method. For the key findings, that's the comparison with the South African one, that's the Mero, from ages 20 to 60. We find that the mortality rate is lower. So this is in comparison with the South African 85 to 90. So the mortality rates for males in Malawi is lower. And then further on the individual life and ordinary comparison, that's for females age 20 to 60. The results are showing that from age 16 to 20 for females, the mortality rates are also lower when you compare with the South African one, that's 85 to 90. While for the group life, the key findings are as follows. That's mortality rates were lower than the South African, 85 to 90, that's aggregate, in respect of assured lives in South Africa. That's for the period 1985 to 90. And further to that, the crude mortality rates were also graduated using the Whittaker-Henderson graduation method and the HP2 graduation method. So that's the graph, basically, that shows the comparison. For now, this is for the age 20 to 60. Interestingly, from age 40 and above, the mortality rates for Malawi are lower when you compare to the South African one. That's for 85 to 90. I'll just highlight some of the key challenges. The main challenges that we noted are, one, missing data. Apparently, some data, you notice that you couldn't find either the claim date, you could not find the gender, or even the birth date. So there were a lot of missing data in the data that was provided. And it was also noted that there were also inconsistent movement date. When you compare with the previous year, you find that you sometimes could not fall through the policy. Some policies did not have unique numbers. Basically, most of the policies did not have unique numbers. So that also resulted into the inconsistency in the data. And then there were also a number of duplicates in the data as one of the challenges that was encountered. And further, more particularly for the group life business, average data was basically used. Now coming to the second phase, which will be the final phase, we basically, first of all, some of the things I haven't written there, but there are steps that we want to undertake. The first one is we would like to have a peer review of the mortality tables before we implement them. So likely maybe we might engage the ASA here, maybe to assist us with the peer review. And another critical aspect that we also think we have to do is to have an impact assessment study, the quantitative impact assessment study. So we engage the life insurers to undertake this study so that we see the results before we actually implement these mortality tables. And further, in future, we will be reviewing the regulations so that they could be used for pricing and reserving. And the big question that has been asked is whether we can actually start using the mortality tables in the current form. It's something that is being considered, but we have to undertake the quantitative impact study first. And at the same time, we, as actuaries are doing their pricing, we expect that the starting point will be our mortality tables. And if there are any departures, then we should be informed and with the reasons for those departures. So that with time, we should also improve on the mortality tables, considering that this is the first time that we have just developed them. So essentially, we expect that the mortality tables will serve as a functional reference point while allowing the subsequent adjustments to the specific circumstances and requirements. So institutions may have their own experiences. So they will start from the mortality tables that we've developed and then make adjustments in line with the institutional specific experiences. And then we will also have a methodology of the maintenance of the mortality tables. And we are aware of jurisdictions that have gone far with their mortality tables. So we will learn from them on how they maintain their mortality tables. And then we'll be expecting as well to be receiving reports periodically, most likely every year. That's one thing that we want to introduce, on data, because what we noted is there were a lot of challenges with the data that was submitted. So it's something that we are also thinking of implementing, that every year we should be receiving data from the market, and then we engage each other so that data is improved. So that when we are having the next set of mortality tables, we should have improved mortality tables. So essentially, these are the expected steps that we intend to undertake. Thank you so much. I hope I'm within time. Oh, thank you.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Paul. We do have quite a number of questions here on the platform. I don't know if there is any question in the room before we go to the app. Yes, we can start with you.
It's on. Here at the back. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I understand. I just want to understand, is there a way for you to test the difference between the mortality experience of the insured lives and the non-insured lives? What we saw there was that your mortality rates seem to be better than South Africa's mortality rates. But I wanted to get a sense, is that the expectation when you look at the general population, that their mortality experience would be better than that of South Africa? I just want to get a check of what kind of sort of high-level tests you sort of applied to this data and the work that you've done.
Oh, yep,
okay.
Can take that one.
Sorry? Oh, the others? Oh, I should take. Oh, okay, fine. Yes, the results indeed, they are interesting when you compare with the, South Africa. I must mention, probably it's possible because of the data quality issues, because as I indicated, the challenges with the data, maybe that could be the cause. And then the other thing is, we've noted that we have made a lot of progress in terms of dealing with the HIV/AIDS in our country. So maybe that could also be a contributing factor. But the big issue could be around the data. I think that's what I can say at the moment.
All right, thank you. Before we go to the front, I think there's someone in the middle there as well for the mic. There's a question here from Anonymous. It says, why is 2020 included in the mortality study, given the unusual experience during COVID?
All right, thanks so much. Yeah, we started 2016 up to 2020, but I've got my colleagues, my actuaries here. From Malawi. Why was it included? Yes, at least I'm happy with it.
I think just to assist on that, we did have COVID in Malawi, but our experience was quite controlled when you compare to the other countries when it came to the death rates. So I think when the data was being provided, we felt that whatever deaths that happened due to COVID were not really significant that it would change anything in terms of the death rates in the country. Because when you look at the death reports that came in through like GLA or pension with the basis of COVID deaths, there were not that many. There were not more than 1,000 like for most institutions, so that's why.
So that's the answer, actually your answer. Yeah, I agree. There were fewer deaths in 2020 in Malawi. Any more questions?
We'll take that for now. Yes, there's someone sitting in the front.
Mine are just comments. Interestingly, I think your observations are more of the same of what we also found in Zim. In Zim, we also did something like that, which we commissioned this year. But I think what is important, especially from regulatory point of view, is to have a transition period where, if I'm an actuary, I will take the national or the standard tables that have been derived. I'll use my own experience within the company. Where I deviate from the standard ones, I explain. Right? There is a problem which I'm seeing, at least for Zim, is in the market, people are already psyched that life insurance is going to be cheap, right? We found that they were lower. There's so much patriotic sense to it instead of objectivity, you know? So I think as a regulator, try and manage that to say, look guys, we are in a transition period. Premiums may go up or down, right? Secondly, for Zimbabwe, the major problem was that for older ages, once you go above 45, you have very small pools in each age, right? And what it does is that you have that variability. So when you graduate, you would always be down, right? So what I noted was that for all the ages from 18 to about 40, you are almost the same with the 85, right? But after that, you go significantly low, right? Which I thought needed to be looked at. So that's one other thing that I think, at least for me, I will have a bit of trouble with the regulators, but I'll always explain that for these ages, I've decided to use my own experience because I think it reflects that better. But otherwise, I think well done. If that's communicated well to board members, to the government, to the media, right, that we are in a transition period, yes, it's good to have own tables, but we're not doing this for patriotic sense. We are doing it because that's the right thing to do. Right? And financially, it's going to result in either better pricing, right? Pricing can be better but still high, or it can be better still low. All those outcomes need to be explained because in Zimbabwe now, all journalists, they've communicated with the media, they're going to go down, right? So even when customers call our call centers, they're expecting premiums to be down. So I think those aspects need to be managed. Otherwise, thank you for a job well done.
Good.
Yeah, thanks so much for the feedback, and I think we'll take that into account. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. There was a question somewhere in the middle of the park. Oh, it has been asked. All right. He says it has been asked. All right. I'll just go to the platform here on the app. Nicolette Patchett says, surely the regulator can only make the mortality tables mandatory for regulatory valuations. But companies could use their own experience for pricing and for IFRS 17 reporting purposes. Could you comment on that?
Actually, the thinking is that the mortality tables will be the starting point for companies, whether it's pricing, whether it's for reserving, and then thereafter they will use their own company experience. That's our thinking. I think also learning from what others have done, they have done it in a similar manner. But I think it's a conversation that we can keep on having with the actuaries who are here and also those that are experienced, whether it's appropriate that the actuaries should use their own mortality tables, and then in such situations, what happens. So I think it's something that I think we'll keep on discussing. And I remember it was also raised during the engagements with the actuaries, the statutory actuaries. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We have a question here from Kudzai Mtebule, which says the Malawi male mortality rates were quite low compared to South Africa and the UK. This question has two parts, Paul. The first part is, did you also do a comparison against Zimbabwe and Uganda? And the second part is, what is the life expectancy age in Malawi and how does it compare to South Africa and other African countries?
All right, thanks so much. We didn't do comparison with Uganda. The only comparison was done with South Africa and the UK one. But it's something that maybe we can explore, that we do comparison with the regional countries, apart from Uganda, probably Zimbabwe or Zambia, and then we compare. In terms of the life expectancy, at the moment, for women, the life expectancy is at 61, or for men, it is at 59. I'm not sure, maybe for South Africa it could be higher than that, but for Malawi, that's the status. Thank you.
All right, thanks a lot, Paul. Just moving on to the next question. Anonymous here is asking, what is the population pyramid like in Malawi?
Well, let me throw it to my fellow actuaries on this one. Oh, I haven't got it well. You want to come in? Yes.
Yes, thank you. Just to be brief, we're looking at those aged maybe 15 to 40, consisting of 50% of the whole population, and a quite lower percentage above 40. So in brief, I could say majority of the population is so youthful. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think Paul has really fielded a lot of questions like a champ. I think, Paul, if you could just give us your closing remarks and last statements for your presentation. Thank you.
All right. Thanks so much. First of all, let me thank the Actuarial Society for inviting us. To us, it's also a learning point. The questions that you have asked, we take them seriously. I think it will help us as we are perfecting our local mortality tables. I know it's a journey, but we'll get there. We are very sure that we'll get there. And with your support, we are also assured that we'll have the right positioning as far as mortality tables are concerned. So I did mention that we might be either coming to ASA for a peer review. We do understand that it's important that we do undertake the peer review. Otherwise, thanks so much once again for your questions. And we are available in case others haven't asked questions or they have got anything to contribute regarding our mortality tables. We are already available and we appreciate it. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you so much, Paul, for that. That was Paul NYIRENDA sharing on the Malawi life tables. And I believe some of the countries in Africa who don't have tables yet can learn something from them. All right, and Cromel, we're going to the last session now. And it's talking about sport. When I talk about sport, what comes to your mind?
I guess rugby at the moment.
Rugby. Oh, wow, Rugby World Cup, yeah. Who's going to win that World Cup? Any expectations?
Do I look like I would understand? But
right.
I would bet my money on the green team.
The green team. I believe you mean South Africa, right?
Springboks.
Good, okay. Let's wait and see. We're playing France very soon. All right. Moving on to our last session about sport. Nelson Mandela, once again, once said,
He
sport
played
has
rugby?
the power.
Oh, I thought Nelson Mandela
No, he
played
didn't
rugby.
play, sport has the power to inspire. It has the power to unite people in a way that little else does. I had the privilege of attending a Nedbank Cup final, and I was not supporting any of the teams. But when one team scored, I could celebrate and just hug or shake hands with someone who I didn't even know. And you could see that everyone was just happy and jovial. We want to hear from Metembe Chuma as he comes up front. If I speak about sport, you probably know about MTN 8, Amabaka Baka. Yes, beating Sundowns, Manchester United. Yes, hopefully Metembe will speak about that. But there's so much sport going on in the world right now. There's rugby, there's cricket. And we want to hear from Metembe as he speaks to us about data science, a talk on sports, data, and a lot of money. Over to you, Metembe.
Okay, so is this thing on? It's on, eh? Okay. Hello, everybody. My name is Metembe Thomas Chuma, and I am a machine learning engineer from Bulawayo, Zimbabwe. So this is the thing, right? And then I just next. Okay. So how do I?
It's coming.
It's not on.
It's right in front of you. The screen is in front of you. There you go.
Oh, the green button. Yeah. I'm pressing the green button.
There should be.
Okay. All right, all right. So a little bit about myself. I work on a lot of very cool projects, and I don't get to tell people about them, mostly because I don't get invited to stuff because I'm not very fun. But thank you very much for inviting me to this one. With data in sport, I've done a lot of really cool projects. For example, using machine learning to predict UFC fights, using machine learning to predict the position of teams at the end of the season. And yeah, so today what we will be covering and uncovering in this presentation is what makes sporting organizations successful, and the three pillars of what makes sporting organizations successful, what turns them into dynasties, if you will. And also, how can a robust data analysis system boost each and every pillar? And also we have the case study where I also predicted weekly player performances in using data in fantasy Premier League. Also another example of how we can use how we can use data in sports by comparing the PSL and the EPL. Also, can we predict season outcomes using machine learning? Spoiler alert, yes, and also no. The future of data analysis in sports. So yeah, we're gonna get into the first one. So what you will probably be able to pick up from this talk initially is what exactly is wrong with the club that you are a fan of currently. For example, for me, it's Man United. The question has been plaguing me for a very long time, and I think I have the answer. So also Kaizer Chiefs fans in the house, you probably should listen to this one closely. You'll pick up a lot of things. Data in sports is something which is in other regions like Europe, USA. Data in sports is something which is unanimous. They all agree and understand on the use cases and the value of it. But for some reason, in our region, it's something which is kind of, I don't know, they don't really believe it. Because initially when I was doing a lot of these projects that I was doing, pitching data analytics for local teams, someone told me that I would be better off telling them that I have got umuti or magical powers than telling them that I can help them with using data. So I believe that the more that we understand the value that is in this thing and the more that we appreciate it more, the better that we're going to perform on the international stage, and the better that the lives of the athletes themselves is going to get. So I have a lot of cool pictures here of like teams that are doing really well. But the interesting thing that all these teams have in common is that they've been doing really well for a very, very long time. So they have three things in common that I wanted to note. I thought it was gonna like come in layers. You're not supposed to see all of it. Just pretend like you're seeing the one at the bottom first. Because apparently you've got like the attention span of a goldfish. So don't read the things, just read the bottom one. So we have got organizational structure. And in organizational structure, we're talking about the back office, the back office of a club, the guys that wear the suits, or in the case of Man City, the Arab thing is, if you get it, you get it. So the organizational structure is I think, the most important part of a sporting organization, because this is what determines how well and for how long your team can perform well. And once this breaks, it's going to take a long time for it to be fixed or to be corrected. And then in the technical structure, we look at the core team that makes the players tick, such as the performance analysts, the coaching goalkeepers, and all of those other guys that you don't really see, but then it's usually like stocky guys wearing tracksuits at the training grounds. Those are the guys, and we're going to be talking about how data analysis can help in that aspect. And then there's also the team structure, and this is the players that are actually on the ground and the real true assets of the club. So a solid organizational structure. We're talking about teams that this is the main building block, which is the culture of the club, and it's often talked about in many circles when they say that this team has lost its culture. This is what will be referred to in the sense that sometimes when there's change of ownership, like what recently happened with change of ownership for Chelsea, a lot of sketchy stuff happened allegedly. So you can tell that it reflects into the performance of the club itself. A similar thing with Man United, and I think to a certain extent maybe Kaizer Chiefs. Yeah, so this is a very, very important part of the club, and it has to be solid because when it's broken, it's very difficult to repair. And then we also look at a cohesive technical structure. I also have a picture of like Mr. Pitso Masumane with this technical team, because I believe that this reflects what it truly means to have a cohesive technical structure, which is the philosophy of the organization as how they play and how they approach their game. And this is something which carries on because when you look at teams that have really created dynasties, you find that there's the coach himself has got a solid team around him that he tends to move around with. And then finally, there's Haaland and Kevin De Bruyne, Foden, because I feel like this reflects the fluidity that is necessary for a team structure. How are they able to adapt during the game, during the season, during the year, and whatever other time period that you feel like using. This is the actual product of the club, and having it fluid to many changes that come and go is really, really important. So now we answer the question, how can a robust data analysis system help each and every pillar? This is where you guys come in, the actuary scientists, and answering question, how is this important to any of you guys? So with in the organizational structure, we find that we can use data analysis for player evaluations. So this means that when the coach or recruitment team is interested in purchasing a player, the organizational staff, they are the ones that are in communication with the other club, and they're talking about, okay, how much are we willing to pay, and what is the fair value of the player? Because I think it's important to look at them as assets, depreciating or appreciating, and so forth and so forth. So if you have a good data analysis system, you can predict these valuations as time goes on, and this can be really helpful for you to understand, well, am I buying something which is going to be appreciating in value as time goes on, or am I doing a bakayoko? Those know, they also know what I'm talking about there. And then my eyes are starting to go. I think I should look this side instead. So we can also use this to analyze the game trends that go on. an example that comes into my head where the financial side of things in organizational sports really shined is in American football. So if you look at the trends of American football, they generally changed over the years from a running game to a passing game. So I don't know how familiar you are with the sports, but then there's it's a lot like rugby. There's a guy who's throwing the ball, and there's a guy who's catching the ball, and then there's the option to have a guy, they give him the ball, he runs through the ball, and other people, they try to kill him. So what was noted was that the guys who people were trying to kill the most generally didn't have a lot of longevity. So their wages, they started to decrease, and the back office of a lot of teams were able to adjust with the trend of understanding that, okay, so the game is moving this way, the wages of certain players have to be moved this way, their valuations also have to be moved in a certain way. And I think we can also apply this to other different sports, and particularly in Africa, it will be very, very, very useful. You can also analyze player risk assessment to understand, generally given a certain amount of data, you can understand, okay, how risky is it to have a player who behaves in a certain way or has a certain history. For example, if you have a player who behaves maybe someone like Neymar or a Pogba, and you have all of their data. Next time you run into a player with similar behaviors, you're able to predict next time that, okay, this is going to be a disaster, we should move on. He has got nice skills and whatnot, but then we should move on. So this could be something that is useful for the back office in terms of assessing the risk level that their players have. It can also be useful for the technical structure when they are looking for players and they are recruiting. Because something that's interesting that I noticed is that the recruitment side of how sports, for sports, how it's done in Africa is a little bit crazy. Because it's like a bunch of old guys, they go around and then they watch 1 or 2 games and then they decide, okay, this is our guy. But then when you go to the European side of things, they look at the data first and then they watch the player. And then they also look at the data again. But then we don't have any of that. That's why we tend to have a lot of bests. We tend to think that this guy is the next thing, but then he's not the next thing. And we also ask ourselves, why do certain players fail when they get to Europe or something like that, and they fail to shine at a bigger stage? But however, if we had proper data systems and prediction abilities, we could be able to tell how well he was going to do anyways, and we could be able to find our stars a little bit more efficiently and a little bit much more sooner. So I think we're also going to look at the team structure. Yeah, I really need to get glasses, Shem. So having a robust data system, it also helps our players to become more marketable, and this can increase the dollars that are being driven to the game, because what makes the most money in football, in sports generally, is the marketing. And if you can't really win in marketing, you can't really make a lot of money. But if you have enough data about your fans, enough data about your players, you can understand which player is more marketable than another fan, than another player. And then it can also boost the league standards. If, for example, we had an open source data system where the teams at the bottom of the league who can afford to create their own systems, they can use something which is provided to them by the league, they would probably have a better chance of beating the bigger teams. And this would actually make the game a little bit more interesting to watch, because like right now it's the bigger teams like Mamelodi Sundowns and Orlando Pirates who have state-of-the-art data systems, but then the teams that are at the bottom of the league, they don't have any of these things. So there's a little bit of inequality in the amount of armor that they have. So now we look at a project, an interesting project that I was working on. Can I ask, do you have any gamblers in the house? Any people who are interested in making money by gambling? I have something here that's interesting for you. I built a machine learning model which can predict the amount of points that a player in Fantasy Premier League is going to make, is going to get for you during that week. Still not yet like there. If we're asking that question, are we there yet? Still not there. Still not, but it's good enough for it to be interesting for me to put in the effort for it. But what I learned from it was that we can almost take a similar model and then apply it into football and like real life football, and we can sort of predict how well a player is going to do during that game week. And that's something that I feel like is quite revolutionary. But the problem is there isn't enough data to predict that, because, well, no one really thinks it's possible like that. But I think with enough data, you probably can. And what I noticed, I started using this model. I think it was game week 3, and I was ranked at probably, that was 4-point-something million. And now we're at game week 8, and I'm ranked at 1.9 million, and I'm predicting myself to be ranked at under 1 million by the time that we reach half the season. So with something like that, I always ask myself if it's possible for us to use this exact same thing, but then in real life. And it'll be quite applicable for the team at the back office, the financial team, to understand, okay, if we're predicting this player to do this well in whatever season, then maybe he can be valued at this much or at that much. Because in fantasy football, we also have player valuations. So if you're able to predict the valuation of a player, it means that you can look at certain players. Like I said, we're looking at players as assets. You can look at a certain asset and then you realize, okay, this guy is undervalued, and if we have him in our team in a year or two, he could be valued at that much if he continues to perform at a certain level. And I feel like it's like flipping houses, but for like with real people, you know. And then, these are the results of the model, which show like it has got varied results. It's a little bit of a mixed bag, with some models performing better than the other one. And I think the best performing model was the rich regression, which I continue to use right now, because the other models, they got broken after I added a certain amount of data. So I'm going to continue using that one. But then I also believe that we could use like a neural network to also predict, which could yield better results. Still not sure, but it's a long-term project. So the focus really isn't on what we can do this season. This season is still a little bit experimental, and next season we're going to have enough data to have a lot more confidence, which is something that I think we can also apply in the current league and real life football. So then I also collected the following data, which I got from transfermarket.com, which is the top 50 valued players in South Africa versus the top 50 valued players in the English Premier League. So as you can see, So as you can see, in the blue one is the English Premier League, the red one is the South African League. the average age of players compared to valuations in the English Premier League is lower compared to the South African League, which I believe speaks to the recruitment policies that we kind of have. And then here we look at the valuation by country, where in England they've got more foreigners playing in their league compared to South Africa, where we've got more natives playing in the league compared to foreigners. What you can draw from this data, in my opinion, is that the increase in number of foreign players playing in your league will increase the number of people that are watching it. So maybe your league could be valued a little bit more if you had a lot more foreign players playing. And then this one is the most interesting one, in my opinion, because when we look at it's almost like a side-by-side valuation, and this is the valuations of the South African players versus the valuation of the English Premier League players. And I believe if you stack all of them together, they probably won't reach here, which is 150 million. So yeah, like something has to be done about this. And like I said, a robust data analytics system will show you that some of these guys, they are valued way more than what this shows. But then the fact that we don't have enough data about the players, it makes it a little bit difficult for them to be valued at a lot higher prices. And then player valuation by team, I think this speaks to the disparity in income of the clubs, which is something that can probably be addressed by the leagues. Because as you can see here, even though Manchester City, for some reason, have more money than the rest of the league, they have like close competitors in terms of Arsenal, Chelsea, and whatnot. But then here in South Africa, Mamelodi Sundowns has a lot more money than the rest, which makes the competition a little bit more difficult, in my opinion. So, I also wanted to answer the question, can we predict season outcomes for teams? Well, yes and no. That's probably because we do not have enough data on the South African League to do that. But then if we did, we probably could do it very well. I did a machine learning project where I tried to experiment with that one. So for the current season, this is my prediction that Sundowns is probably going to win. I know. It's very mind-blowing, né? But then there's also these teams which are likely to get relegated. With the way that I structured it, it's with teams that are written A, are tagged at A, are most likely to end up at position 1 or 2, and the teams that are tagged at B are most likely to end up at position 3 and 4. But then this can change as the season goes because the data will also be changing. So the main question that we kind of have to answer, 17 minutes? Sure, I thought we were 11. Oh, I'm breezing through this thing, yeah? All right. So, as I was saying, what we can learn from all of this is that it's possible for us to predict how the season is going to end. And how is this applicable to you guys again? For example, if a team is going to get relegated, you can predict that their income is going to go down because the league gives you a certain amount of money for being in the league, at least in the case of the English Premier League. So maybe by half season, if you can predict that this team is going to be out of the league, maybe you can also start looking at evaluating their players or their assets to see, okay, what can we strip from this dying horse. And also, you can conduct some financial planning. And if you have this model that good enough, maybe you can even go to the bank and ask for some money and say that, hey, our predictions say that we're going to win the league. And if we win the league, we're going to get this much money. And if we get this much money, we're going to be able to repay you back in a certain amount of time. I don't know if they're going to agree with that because the model is like 79% accurate and banks don't like to give people money. So yeah, good luck with that. But then I think it's quite applicable too. However, the data is built on, the model is built on 144 rows, which is not a lot to be confident in. But as time goes, you can build a better data set. You can build a much more robust system. And now we look at the future of data analytics in sport. Also have a picture of Aaron Rodgers here, my favorite athlete. And then we've got Andile Charlie, as well as Ja Morant here. That's very important for the presentation. So it's the future, I believe, that is very bright, because as the more mainstream teams use these systems more and more, the old people that are in charge of these teams in my country are going to start to believe that these things, they work. And maybe we're going to get more jobs in data. Who knows? But then, because in most regions, when I talk to, I've got a friend of mine in Malawi who wanted to do the same project, a friend of mine in Zambia wanted to do the same project. We all had the same problem, and we all face the same challenges, which is a lack of interest in the whole data analytics thing. But I believe that in 2-3 years, it's going to change, and we're going to see a lot more interest in it. And what can we build in the future with enough data? We can build apps that can help to aid the coaches, substitution suggestions, team selection suggestions. We can do a lot of those cool things. We can also help to build prediction models to see if which player is going to perform well this week, which player is an injury risk, and all of those things, as well as models to predict how well a coach is going to be as a replacement, which, in my opinion, is something that should be used by now, because a lot of the times when coaches fail, the patterns in which they fail with is always the same. And if you have a pattern, then you can predict the future. So I believe that's me. Any questions?
Right, let's clap hands for Metembe. Wow, I'm already seeing Manchester United winning this league. Let's see, we do have a question in the back. We can start with that one. Just to also acknowledge, before you start, just to acknowledge the person sitting in the front here, Karabo Morule. I think she's here to support Metembe. All right.
I want to get a sense of South Africa. What, for instance, you mentioned Mamelodi Sundowns and Pirates. I don't know whether you meant it. You said they do use data. I want to understand exactly what you know about how they use the data, what kind of people they employ. And also, in terms of how the data is collected, if you could say a little bit more about the kind of data that gets used and how it gets collected. So when you mentioned that there is less data in South Africa, I want to understand exactly what you mean by that. Why is there a lack? Is that something that can easily be fixed? And also, if you look at the second division in South Africa, if I were to give you a club owner and say, you go and do your thing, do you think you can help that foot? Because I've got a football team that is languishing at the bottom, and I know the owner, so we can get it to the top, brother.
To the second question, because I kind of forgot the first one. It's, yeah, I can do that. Like with enough data, there's someone who said, give me a stick long enough and I can lift and a fulcrum and I can lift the world. With enough data, I can predict the end of the world. That's what I believe. So with the struggling sports team, Brentford FC did it. That team with the red stripes and black shorts in the Premier League. They have probably the slimmest recruitment budget, but then they somehow managed to find one of the most talented players in the Premier League Ollie Watkins, the guy with dreads who has a gambling problem, who scored a lot of goals that season. He did very well. So yeah, you can find patterns very well. In terms of how the data is collected, with the data that exists right now in South Africa, you only have like basics of how many shots were made in this game, or stuff like how many goals were scored, offsides and whatnot. But then you don't really have like the deep stuff compared to what you can find easily, I might add, in the Premier League. Things like how many passes have been made by which player, how many of those passes reach the target. And yeah, there's so much that you can find, but then you can't find it in South Africa. It's not difficult to collect either. You just need a couple of guys with a pen and a paper sitting through the game, observing it.
Maybe I can add to that. How this session actually came about was because with the new Basketball Africa League that's now been running for about 4 years, that's actually one of the requirements that the BAL had, was they wanted people who could assist with gathering the data, because this is the stuff that actually makes also the game more interesting. The fact that the commentator can have these statistics on hand and can tell you how many passes this person has made, how many assists they've made, what are the stats related to the game and the league in aggregate. So it is something that is quite interesting, and it's a great commercial opportunity, which I think not many people are exploiting on the African continent, that we actually could be using far more data to be able to actually optimize teams and assist teams in actually doing far greater than what they're able to do now. So I certainly think that this is one of the reasons why this is quite critical and a great opportunity for many more people.
Great, awesome. We have a question, somewhere in the middle here. Okay, someone else has the mic, so we'll come to you, Warren. You can go ahead.
Awesome, thank you. I'm thinking, in Africa as a whole, it's mostly third world countries, and there's so many external factors other than what the data says. So how would our models, how accurate would our models be, given that things like stadium seating is not as in the UK, and for example, ticket prices and things like public transport to get to the stadiums. So those things are not accounted for in the model. And how does that impact the overall accuracy when you're predicting in US compared to UK, and how would, in the African context, that be? Thank you.
Oh, okay. So I listen this way because my hearing is also starting to go away. I'm an old man inside. So the beautiful thing about prediction models is that when I build it specifically for that league. So the statistics, all of those biases that you mentioned, they are also built. They are already built into the data, that the data set that I'm already working with. So I generally don't need to worry about that, because I don't take that model and then go and paste it with the English Premier League. I use English Premier League data sets to build prediction models for that league. I separate it like that. It's like twins, but they look different. Yes.
Okay, thanks. Just want to check in terms of the models and the methodologies. Obviously, you're relying on patterns and predictability, and obviously the better the pattern, the more stable it is, the better your predictions will likely be. How robust do you find these models are to changes or disruptions? And if there's a major shift change in the industry and in the data, how long does it take for your methodology to recalibrate and sort of improve its accuracy again? Is any indication of your experience of how that works?
So like what I said, the models, they move with the data. It's almost like water. You pour it into different cups, they take that shape. So what I generally tend to do, for example, when there's a game that's played in the South African Premier League, I go and scrape that data and I add it back to the data set. So that when I retrain the model, it's now taking into account the new data. So it's now taking the shape of what the trend generally is. That's what I generally tend to do. I don't use old data for a very long time. A similar thing with girlfriends. Sorry. I used to be a stand-up comedian. So what else? What other question is there that I can?
Right. There's another question there on our left.
Mitebe, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. This is so brilliant for me. It's so exciting to see because for the first part, it speaks to what Michael was saying earlier about the lack of innovation in terms of the fact that we have actual graduates without jobs. Because based on this presentation, it seems like we could place ourselves in various businesses and see how we could improve them. In which case, maybe this question is generally for everybody in the room. Because some of the things that have been said is that an actuary who's just an actuary is not an actuary, and there's another definition that says that an actuary is a business person who knows mathematics and not the other way around. So indeed, is Michael right in terms of the fact that we're not being innovative enough in the profession to pursue such types of research and projects? And in terms of business, I know there's a couple of actuaries who have started businesses, and maybe Karabo, I can put you on the spot there. Just in terms of what Michael says and in terms of the context of this, because this, for me, shows very clearly that actuaries can play a role in non-traditional roles and really add value and be business people as opposed to waiting to be employed.
So I think others, they're going to answer.
But maybe I can add just to the second point. I think it is really a great opportunity, and maybe there are people who are thinking about entrepreneurship and have been working in data science and are actually willing to challenge themselves with something new. And maybe they can help Bafana finally get somewhere in the World Cup. So, you know, I think it does present this opportunity. And I think that's why I thought it's so great to highlight what Timber's been doing in terms of data science and the models that he's been building. Because I think it does, you know, yes, it's something totally different in terms of how we think about the application for data science. But I think it's very interesting because there's lots of people who are probably participating in the fantasy football leagues and now will kind of maybe see that data differently and see the experiences there differently. Certainly is a massive industry in the US. I don't know if you maybe want to elaborate on the extent to which data science is used in the US and the number of people who are looking at it, but it certainly is, I think, a very exciting opportunity, and with so much sport opportunity on the continent, new sports being developed all the time, and maybe you could be also applying the same thing to paddle if you're playing paddle. So.
Yeah, thank you very much. The thing that makes me so excited to be here is because generally us as data scientists, we tend to build things first, and then we don't ask how to make money with it. But then with collaboration with you guys, you come in and first you ask the question, how do we make money from this thing? And then we can collaborate together than working separately. And like when we look at places like the United States, when they are recruiting, for example, they have draft picks for maybe, let's say, a quarterback. They actually have literal statistics how much on average this guy can bench press. They have statistics on, I'm sure he throws the ball like, I'm gonna do a demonstration. He waits for the ball, catches the ball, and then he moves back, looks around, and then he throws the ball. So they have an average of how fast it takes for the ball for him to receive the ball and to throw it. If we have, like, we don't have, we're light years behind all of that stuff. And there's so much that can be done and so much monetary benefits that we could have if we integrate these systems into what we do.
All
That's
right.
the end of the thing.
Any other questions before we close? And I'm not seeing any on the app as well. All right. Thank you so much, Matembe. Let's give him a round of applause as he takes his seat. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have now come to the end of our program today. I would like to just close off by thanking each and every one of you for coming through today. Maybe let's give a round of applause for each other. I think it's nice to just celebrate these moments. I already see the 75 years or 50 years of the convention as we are kicking off today, tomorrow, and then Thursday. Before we go, I want to take this opportunity to thank you, Nkrumah, for being here.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate you. Thank you so much for the day. You made it so easy for me to run the day today. I was also working here, I was kind of working 2 jobs, because I'm also the secretary of the International Committee Africa. And as Karabo is sitting there, she's the chair of our committee. And I would now like to just call upon our speakers for the day. We have something small that we have installed that we want to share with you. You know, in Africa, if you've done something for someone, you get a small gift.
Cool drink.
A cool drink, yes. It's not a cool drink, but it's a small gift. All right. As they are coming up, I would like to thank ASA for the opportunity today. And I thank each and every presenter. Some have flown from Kenya. Some have flown from Malawi.
Yeah.
And we just want to thank you as the Actuarial Society. And if you are keen on joining this subcommittee, the International Committee Africa, please feel free to reach out to me. You'll find my profile on the app, and we'll take it forward. All right.
And how incredible were the speakers? A round of applause
Amazing,
for our speakers for the day.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
I think my mic is off.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Really appreciate it. Our wonderful speakers for the day.
Thank you so much, speakers.
All right. Now,
Yes.
before we go home, some housekeeping issues. Thank you so much, attendees. Thank you. And for those who park their vehicles, please remember to collect a parking ticket at the garderobe. This was my first day seeing this word, by the way, in Cromwell, garderobe.
Yeah.
Please also remember to collect your socks. There's a water bottle and some socks. I'm not sure if they have some actual family on them. I will just return ASA, but I look forward to receiving mine as well. And last but not least, we'll be seeing everyone tomorrow at 8:30 a.m. We have a first plenary speaker, Jeremy Gardner, who will be taking us from tomorrow onwards. But it's been a pleasure, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much, and hopefully we'll see you again next year in this platform. Thank you.
Thank you.